Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reiki Radio. I am your host, Yolanda, and we are on day 3 of our journey through the major arcana of the tarot. And the first word that popped to mind just as I was about to come on to do this show was internal wisdom or hidden wisdom. I am looking at the card, the High Priestess, and that is who we will be meditating on today. The High Priestess in all of us. And I have to tell you, this card is quite interesting. It kind of brings up a lot of energy around mystery, and it's commonly known to be reflective of intuition. But we're going to go a little deeper into the High Priestess today, and this is one that I really am looking forward to hearing what comes up for all of you. So again, I will invite you, if you haven't joined us yet, to come into the Seeker Circle. It's our free community on Facebook, and you can find access on my website, which is yuchi.com. That's YEWCHI.com. And if you scroll down on the homepage, you will see a link to where you can click and find us in the Seeker Circle and share your journey through the major arcana as well. So, I feel actually I'm trying to ground a bit because I did a very quick meditation before having this discussion today. I felt that it was very necessary in order to really connect with the energy of the High Priestess. And I have to admit, this is one of my favorite cards. So if you are just joining this journey with us again, the deck that I am using is the Rider-Waite deck. And the High Priestess card is the number 2 in the major arcana. So before we start talking about this card alone, I want to just mention that it is an interesting transition from the meditation we had yesterday with the Magician, really acknowledging the power of the mind and how you are using the mind, really how you're using your own magic. And yesterday was all about having an awareness of your thoughts, your emotions, your will, and what it is that you are creating. Again, that magician, that is you. And a big part of that is how we are perceiving things, how we direct the mind, how we use our mind, how we use our energy, our intention, all of these things. And then the High Priestess brings us into another level of consciousness. So where the Magician in a lot of ways was tuning into our conscious mind, the High Priestess is where we go into our intuitive mind. It's the energy really of the soul or the subconscious. And again, that's why there's a lot of energy of mystery around this card in particular. So the number 2, we can start there. As I said, this is the number 2 card, and the 2 can be symbolic of reflection, reproduction, replication, but also illusion. And the illusion aspect reminds me of the number 11. We've talked about we're in a universal year 11, and I've talked to you about the number 11, which is also, the number 2. How it is the number 1 reflecting itself out. So creating a projection of itself. So it creates this illusion of separation or this illusion of being 2 rather than acknowledging the 1, the non-duality really. But there is a lot of symbolism of duality in this card, and we'll talk about that. So one of the first things about the High Priestess is a High Priestess in of herself. The title means Chief Feminine Elder. And a lot of people connect this card with the goddess Isis, the Egyptian deity Isis, because she is the goddess of magic and mystery and healing, and really represents like the Divine Mother. So this card really helps us to consider going beyond the veil, as they say, and into the subconscious mind. And the only way we can access this hidden wisdom that the High Priestess represents is by stilling our mind, or going into a meditative state and allowing ourselves to ground into the body first, but then accessing that intuitive wisdom, that inner wisdom, our inner voice. That reminds me, last night I saw an interesting documentary, an independent film about this man who was on a quest to understand intuition, understand what it means. And I will blog about that to share about my journey with the magician. So you can find that information on my website later today. And I'll tell you about that movie. But anyway, so the priestess really does kind of remind us of the importance of accessing the intuition. This card is about intuition, clairvoyance, and even memory. And it's interesting because when you think about memory, right, we have all of these energies that are stored in our field of consciousness. And I tell you all the time how your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your experiences, those things aren't destroyed, but we can transform our energy. And how we are carrying things, how we carry the energy of experience in our memory oftentimes has a direct, impact or influence on how we are acting or reacting to life right now. So, for example, if you had a relationship that caused you to be afraid, to be vulnerable, even if that happened in your past, right now you may be functioning from a place of being afraid to be vulnerable. So you have this wall up and you don't allow yourself to be loved fully, or to exchange love, or to be in relationship. You may have this block up because of that past experience. And when we allow ourselves to access the information that we're holding, or acknowledge how we are holding these different energies in our field, we are then able to transform those energies. Again, changing our perception, whether it's through forgiveness, compassion, we move into a space of understanding, and then it also will change the pattern of then what we allow in our lives and what we begin to create and what we begin to experience. So some of these things aren't at the forefront in our conscious recognition. They're not laid out in front of us like the tools of the magician. They are deeper back in our subconscious mind oftentimes. And sometimes when these things start to come forward, or our intuition starts to speak to us, we will stuff it back. We run away, we hide, we try to deflect. But this card today is a beautiful reminder of how important it is to acknowledge and access whatever is coming through for us intuitively. Our hidden wisdom, our subconscious mind, our whatever it is that we hold that may not be right at the forefront. So one of the things I want to say with this, and I've said before, we don't have to go digging for things or trying to intentionally unlock what we hold. When we allow ourselves to sit with ourselves, whether, meditation is a beautiful tool for that, things will naturally start to come into our awareness. So the High Priestess, I am reminded of the importance of our practice of self-connection, of self-awareness, of self-connectivity, of allowing ourselves to go deeper within ourselves. So again, turning away from the external and bringing it all the way into the internal mind, our intuitive mind, whatever you like to call it. Now, let's look at some of the elements of the High Priestess before I go too far off on a tangent. Let's see. Let's look at her crown. If you look at the image of the High Priestess, she has the triple moon in her crown, symbolic of the triple moon goddess. She has a full moon in the center, and then on the sides we can see the waxing and waning moon, which is also symbolic of the maiden, mother, and crone, the full embodiment of a goddess. And for those of you who are connected with astrology, you know that the moon is highly intuitive and very much connected with our internal workings, what we need to feel fulfilled. Also, the full moon illuminates, what we are internalizing or what we hold. And so, again, this card, even in that symbolism just in her crown, speaks to the beauty and the gift of accessing our internal wisdom and paying attention, building relationship with our intuitive minds. And I want to say that relationship aspect is quite important because we have been conditioned in a lot of ways to function primarily from our analytical minds and not trusting in our intuitive voice, not trusting in our intuition. So today, our meditation is a really good reminder to get into that practice of listening to your intuitive self. Now, another element of this card is the High Priestess has, it looks kind of like a veil behind her. And the veil itself is gray, which is a color that merges black and white. And so when you merge those two opposites, the polarity, it's really a symbol of wisdom. And then on this gray veil, there are pomegranates and palms. And the palms and pomegranates are symbols of the masculine and feminine energy. Again, it could be a symbol of union of the two, a union of the feminine and masculine, or positive and negative forces. And the pomegranate, just as a side note, was originally thought to be the forbidden fruit. So some look at this image as a symbol of the High Priestess guarding secrets. She's guarding what's behind the veil. And, in this realm, we hear a lot of, going beyond the veil of illusion. So this is also highlighted in this other element of the card. She's sitting in between two pillars. One is black, one is white. And these are considered the pillars of initiation in some traditions. They're also symbolic or speak to Solomon's temple. One has a B and the other one has a J. So the black pillar has a B on it, which is B is for Boaz, and that means in its strength. And the J on the white pillar is for Jachin, which is he shall establish. So in it is strength. He shall establish. And these two pillars, being black and white, again represent polarity. And the High Priestess is sitting in between the two. And this is symbolic of a balance and power, but her being in the middle is also symbolic of truth, being or lying in between the two polarities. So you could think of this as, earth and spirit, light and dark, whatever, positive, negative. The truth is that balance in the middle, the balance of power. And again, thinking of the magician yesterday, being very consciously aware of how we're using the power of the mind, and then the High Priestess bringing us into this space of intuition, we can consider the merger of both. Tuning into that subconscious, unconscious, tuning into that intuitive self and bringing it forward into our conscious recognition so that we can begin to create and experience from a higher level. Now, another thing about her that's very interesting, if you notice, she has on a blue kind of gown or robe over her gown, and at her feet, this gown is starting to turn into water. Excuse me, my voice is kind of crackly today. Her gown is turning into water at her feet, and that again is symbolic of the connection to the collective unconscious. But what is most interesting is at her left foot, there is a crescent moon. And that is symbolic of wisdom based on intuition. And the left side is very significant because it's our side of receptivity. It's the side that is symbolic of the divine feminine. So again, it's speaking to allowing ourselves to be receptive to our inner wisdom, our intuitive minds. Now, the High Priestess, she really is the keeper of wisdom, okay? She's the keeper of magic. Again, that's why there's so much mystery and kind of like secrecy around this card. And some people say it's one of the most difficult cards to interpret because of that. But, I'll leave that up to you. As I say that, I also want to point out, when I do teach people to read cards, and I've taught a couple of oracle card classes in the past, one of the main things I tell people to do is notice how each card speaks to their senses. So some of us are more visual, so look at the card and notice what stands out to you. Some people are more clairsentient, where you feel things. So you can look at the card or hold the card and notice what you feel. Do you feel any sensation in your body when you connect with the energy of this card? And for some of us, we're more clairaudient, and if we tune into anything really but the card, in this example, you may start to hear messages. You may start to have certain words pop up into your conscious mind. So, and it's very fitting, I think, for this discussion around the High Priestess to allow yourself to even connect with this card intuitively. Notice what you see in the card, what you feel in the card, what you sense from this card. Ask this energy, this High Priestess, what is it that she is trying to convey to you, or if she has a message for you today. So going back, she is the keeper of wisdom and magic, and again, we're doing this journey as a meditation or reflection for our own lives. So in that, think of yourself as a keeper of powerful knowledge that can be accessed through your activation of your intuition. It reminds me of how you always hear in this realm, the answers are within. Trust yourself, tune into your inner guidance. That's really what that High Priestess is speaking to, all of these things. So again, whether you are consciously aware of it or not, and there is a lot of wisdom that you hold that you're not yet consciously aware of, you can access it. You can access your higher wisdom. You can access your higher self. You can start to pay attention to your intuitive self. And again, if this is something new for you, it's a practice and it's relationship building. You start to build a relationship with your intuitive self by first starting with the acknowledgement. And again, meditation is a great way to do this. If you are, listening to this and like, I have no idea how to do that, Yolanda, what are you talking about? You can go to my website, yuchi.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you will get access to some free gifts and tools that support you in becoming an observer of yourself. And also there are some tools in there, peppered in, that help you, including guided meditations, that help you with accessing your own intuition. So you can go to my website and start with that today. Now, one of the things also that stands out about the High Priestess is on her lap, she's holding a scroll, and you can see it says Torah, and it's kind of hidden, like it's kind of tucked away behind her robe. But this Torah is symbolic of a body of law that governs spiritual and physical consciousness, physical and spiritual planes. Again, it is wisdom and hidden wisdom or knowledge, but she is holding it. Again, if you step into the embodiment of the High Priestess, if you let this card be a mirror of you, it is another reminder that you are holding hidden wisdom. You are able to access the wisdom or knowledge of spiritual and physical planes, moving into deeper understanding. And, again, this is something that really only you can do. So what's coming up to tell you is, the High Priestess, it's not as if she is doing this for you. She is reminding you that you are, in fact, a High Priestess in your own right, but you have to go through the process of initiation and allowing yourself to access this aspect of you. And it starts with tuning in. You can't have your awareness be solely on the material, solely in the analytical mind, and solely in just what you see in the world around you. You have to allow yourself to go beyond that. And meditation, of course, again, is a great way to do it. So I would even say part of our meditation today, with playing with the High Priestess and this energy and noticing how this card speaks to us, would be simply to go into a meditation. Give yourself space and time to go into a meditative state today, and again, just simply ask the question, what is the High Priestess, or my own inner High Priestess, trying to reveal to me? Or what is my own High Priestess trying to help me to understand today? What would best support me on my path today? And this is something that you can do again and again. And each day, each time you make that connection, you may have a different answer come through, depending on where you are on your path and what you are ready to hear or see or know, what you are allowing yourself to be receptive to. Now, one of the things about this card, and I've told you about the other two cards, each card has an element and an associated planet. So the High Priestess is associated with the element of water. And remember, we talked about yesterday, water is symbolic of our emotion. And the planet with this is the moon. Now, again, moon and water, they both are highly intuitive. It's about going into our inner processes. But one of the things I also want to point out for those of you who are into astrology, that each time I tell you the element and the planet associated with the card, you can also then figure out the sign that is associated with the card. So the High Priestess specifically, with the water and the moon, that speaks to the energy of the sign of Cancer. And Cancer is the mother of the zodiac. Again, the High Priestess, in her crown, she has the full moon, the waxing, and the waning moon, like the triple goddess, maiden, mother, crone. And the sign of Cancer is highly intuitive. And the sign of Cancer is ruled by the moon. So everything about this card, everything about this energy is screaming intuition, go within, inner wisdom, divine feminine. Tune into that today. Acknowledging even what you are allowing yourself to be receptive to. Now, while the High Priestess is suggesting that you tune in or be receptive to your intuitive nature, your inner wisdom, if you're not tuning into that, what is it that you are tuning into? Even ask yourself that today. That may be interesting. What are you allowing yourself to be receptive to? And how can you become more receptive to your intuitive nature? Now, that's a good thing to ask yourself, that we can all ask ourselves in a individual basis, because some people do have a block to their intuition, or they are afraid to access their intuition. Even sometimes when you say, like, I want to be more intuitive, I want to tap into my psychic ability, but you feel stuck in that, there may be something that you hold that is a fear around it. Maybe you're afraid of what you will see. Maybe you're afraid of what you will know. Maybe someone in your life told you that that's a scary or bad thing. And if you're holding on to those beliefs or those fears or those doubts, then you are creating that own mental block for yourself. So that will be something that you want to work through first. And then again, continue to show up and attempt to sit and acknowledge your intuitive guidance that does come through. You can ask to just be shown a sign. And be patient. Just allow and sit. Each day say, give me a sign or give me evidence of my intuitive nature. Make that request each day, but then pay attention. Pay attention to the little things, like you think of someone and then they call you. You have a feeling about something and then it actually happens. You sense something and then you get validation around it. Don't ignore your intuition, your intuitive awareness. Because the more you pay attention to it consciously, and the more you stop denying or trying to downplay, like, it was probably just a coincidence or something, really acknowledge and own the ways that you do tune into your intuitive nature, which oftentimes we don't realize until like hindsight, especially in the beginning, right? It's kind of like a game that we play of recognition after the fact. But as you keep practicing, you will start to become aware of it real time. You will start to know and understand how your intuition works for you and through you. You will start to know and begin to trust when you are aware of your intuitive guidance and information. Now, another thing about the High Priestess is, if you notice, she has a yellow at the floor, and we talked about before yellow being symbolic of intellect. I also mentioned that golden color reminds me of alchemy. So that really is the foundation. Okay, so it's not like she has no conscious awareness. It's not like she's not tuned into the conscious mind as well, or her intellectual mind, but she is really guiding us and leading us into that other aspect of ourselves. So as I'm saying that, it's just a reminder as well to make sure you are grounded into yourself, that you are tuned into your physical beingness before allowing yourself to lift into that higher consciousness. Because again, there is this balance which is all over this card, the black and white, the masculine and the feminine, the duality, the polarities, and the High Priestess is right there in the middle. That's where the magic is. So as you work with building relationship with your intuition, or as you allow yourself to connect with your own High Priestess today, or you allow yourself to go into a state of meditation to just sit and observe and build relationship with your intuition, don't negate your physical self, your physical being. It's all part of your spiritual nature. So I guess all in all, one of the things that this card really does speak to me is unlocking your hidden wisdom. Go within, meditate to unlock your hidden wisdom. It's only hidden from you if you don't look. You're the only one who can access the wisdom of the High Priestess. And I want to just remind you all with this, have patience. This is something that we work through. This is something that we build upon. It's like working a muscle, right? Anyone who has studied intuition or developed their intuition will tell you it's a practice. And for those of you who are already highly sensitive, it's even a practice of learning how to kind of wrangle in and translate what you sense. So even if you are already tuned into your intuitive nature, you still can have a practice of learning how to translate, understand, and manage it. Everything that we do, no matter where we are in the process, is part of our practice. Very interesting. Someone is laying in on their horn in the background today. Well, anyway, that is all for the High Priestess. I mean, she has so much wisdom, our own inner wisdom, and I hope that you have fun with her today. Again, I can't wait to hear what comes up for you. Right after this, I am going to sit in my own meditation to connect with my own High Priestess and see what comes through. And be sure to share with us. Come join us in the Seeker Circle. Again, you can find access on my website, which is yewchi.com. That's YEWCHI.com. And you can scroll down on the homepage and find the button there. So I'm just looking at the card and making sure there was anything else I wanted to tell you. I think that's all. That's all the High Priestess is saying to me today. I hope that you all have a beautiful day, and remember to always journey in love.